Hello everyone, I'm Lao Gao. A couple of days ago, we talked about gravity, and today we're going to talk about anti-gravity. Gravity is a mysterious force that's constantly acting on us. It can bend space and alter time. So, in theory, if we can control gravity, we can control space and time. The act of controlling gravity is what we call anti-gravity. Anti-gravity doesn't just mean resisting gravity. Anything that involves controlling gravity is considered anti-gravity. The most classic example of anti-gravity is those floating houses and cars you see in sci-fi movies. That's all anti-gravity. Of course, anti-gravity isn't just a technology, it holds special significance for us humans as well. Alright, throughout human history, there have been a few very important figures who could defy gravity. For example, David Copperfield, or Superman, or Jesus. Basically, as long as someone is a god, they have to be able to defy gravity. If a god is just standing on the ground, we don't really see them as a god. Gods are always floating in the air. So for us, anti-gravity is a necessary step into the realm of the divine. That's why anti-gravity has always been a technology and ability that we humans have dreamed of.
We want to float out.
Yeah, don't you want to float up too? Like Superman, he's not the same as a bird.
He can hover.
And float, zooming. Look at Superman, just like that. It's embarrassing, birds can't do that.
And their hair never even gets messed up.
It really does look embarrassing. I can feel my face drooping, not so anti-gravity after all. But is this technology actually achievable? In fact, theoretically, it is possible. We talked about this in the gravity episode. In general relativity, gravity is considered a kind of curvature of spacetime. Of course, this kind of curvature manifests as the contraction of spacetime. Anything with mass causes the spacetime around it to contract. Conversely, if the spacetime is expanding, then that's when you have anti-gravity. Our universe right now is actually accelerating in its expansion, which means that, on the whole, our entire universe is anti-gravitational. This is really strange, because if you look at our universe on a microscopic scale, like looking at the Earth, the Moon, or any planet, they're all contracting. But on a macroscopic scale, the universe is expanding. There are a lot of things that seem contradictory when you look at them on a microscopic level versus a macroscopic level. So, if we could control gravity, what could we actually do? In fact, we could do a lot of things. The most straightforward example is just like in science fiction movies, houses and vehicles would float, making it super convenient to go anywhere, and building houses would probably be much easier, with all space being usable. Plus, if we could control gravity, it would be like having access to unlimited energy. For example, if we mastered some kind of anti-gravity device, say, like a board, and the space above this board had no gravity, do you know what would happen? The air above it would keep shooting upward, because the air is very light and not affected by gravity. Air from the sides would flow in, then float up, flow in, float up. This cycle would go on endlessly. It would be like a perpetual vacuum. If you put a windmill in there, it could generate electricity forever, and the energy for that electricity would come from gravitational potential energy. Gravitational potential energy exists everywhere around the Earth, but aside from free fall, we have no way to harness it. If we had some kind of anti-gravity device, then it could be fully utilized. Another manifestation of anti-gravity technology is tractor beams, meaning you don't have to physically touch these objects, but you can move them around however you like.
Move things remotely.
Yeah, right, something like that.
It seems like everyone can do that.
Exactly. And there's another thing. By controlling anti-gravity, you can also control inertia. Inertia is something people might not have thought much about. If there were no gravity, actually, inertia wouldn't exist either. Oh, so those anti-gravity houses and cars we just talked about, they're not really floating in the air, but rather, they just exist in the air. If you give them a push, they won't just zoom forward. They won't, right, because there's no inertia. Wherever you push it, it just stays there. If you pull it over, it just stops right there. But you also don't need to use any force at all, because it has no mass.
Then, those people on the space station, it seems like they're still somehow related.
That's not true anti-gravity. True anti-gravity is ignoring gravity altogether, being completely unaffected by it. This feeling is just different from things like magnetic levitation. You see, even though maglev trains have no friction, you still need a lot of force to lift a very heavy train, to get it moving, and then when you want to stop it, you also need a lot of force to bring it to a halt. But if there's no inertia, it's not like that. Without inertia, you don't need any force to start, and you don't need any force to stop either. You just put something in its way and it stops.
And what about starting it?
To start it, you just give it a little push and it starts moving, but you have to keep applying force. You always need something pushing it.
So, if there's no gravity, how does food go down?
Ah, these 4 questions.
Yeah.
Right. So, to control ghosts, you'd hope that sometimes you have it when you want it, and when you don't, it's just not there. And what if there's no inertia? In theory, there wouldn't be any traffic accidents anymore, since traffic accidents happen when cars crash into each other, or into walls. When there's a crash, people get thrown out, but without inertia, when the car crashes, people would just stop as well. Another example, when pilots make a sudden climb or dive, they have to endure huge amounts of gravity. This kind of gravity just wouldn't exist anymore. That's why people say UFOs are unbelievable. This is the reason. UFOs can just zip around like that. The movement itself isn't the key point. What's really amazing is why nothing inside the UFO gets killed from all that motion. You know why? It's because there's no gravity inside, it's anti-gravity. That's why nothing gets killed inside, not just because it can swerve left and right. Moving up and down, we humans can do that too, but we can't guarantee that people inside won't die or pass out. So, if you really want to make a true UFO, anti-gravity is the prerequisite.
But the thing is, it's not even humans inside.
Oh, robots, right? Even then, you can't crash into things. I think strapping them in works. Actually, when UFOs are doing all those cool maneuvers, the guys inside are just being tossed left and right, aren't they?
We'd all be thrown around like crazy.
Yeah, exactly, we'd be tossed around. But we could also use anti-gravity to avoid catastrophic disasters. For example, if an asteroid was about to hit Earth, we could use anti-gravity on it and stop it right there. I could move it wherever I want. Or, if a black hole was getting close, we could use anti-gravity to avoid being sucked in. After all, it pulls us in with gravity.
I'd really love to go in and take a look.
Yeah, I'd want to check it out too, but I feel like there's a high chance we'd get crushed.
If you want to jump off a building, you need an upward force. It's the same, really.
No way, that's impossible.
You just crash right into it.
Crashing into the door wouldn't work either, there's no direct.
You just crash into the wall. Crash.
Crashing into the wall won't work either. You've got inertia, you know. If you don't have inertia, then maybe if you hit the corner of the wall with force, that could work.
What if you use your own strength? Would that work?
You're just relying on your next strength.
You might die from the impact.
You wouldn't die from the impact.
But there aren't any more trams to crash into.
Yeah, as soon as you jump, you just run along with the tram.
You'd still have to buy another ticket.
So, if anti-gravity is so amazing, is there actually a way to achieve it? In fact, there's a very famous person in anti-gravity research, and his name is Hutchison. He's an inventor from Canada. In 1988, he attended a summit called the Future Technology Symposium, where he gave a presentation. He played a video, claiming that in 1979, while he was studying Tesla coils, he observed an anti-gravity phenomenon. Everything in his lab started floating. He himself didn't know how he did it. Later, he repeated the experiment many times and recorded the process, which is why there was that video as evidence. No, he didn't know how it happened. Anyway, he did the experiment many times. Sometimes the phenomenon would occur, and sometimes it wouldn't. Yeah, and later it got even more serious. There were even some teleportation phenomena, like things from other rooms suddenly appearing in his room. Is that for real? It really happened, and there's more. Some pretty scary things occurred, because he found that metal and wood had fused together. All these phenomena were just like those in the Philadelphia experiment, right? Exactly that kind of feeling. He said that the most intense anti-gravity effect he observed was when a 400-kilogram transformer in his lab started floating. But he emphasized that he had absolutely no idea how this was happening. It would just occur by chance. You wouldn't believe it, it's unbelievable. So, since this phenomenon occurred while he was working on the Tesla coil, some people felt it might have something to do with electromagnetic effects. However, no one could explain the underlying principle. Still, since this phenomenon couldn't appear consistently, some people suspected it might be faked.
He couldn't reproduce it in front of other people, right?
Right, even in his own lab, he couldn't always make it happen. Think about it, he discovered this phenomenon in 1979, but he didn't go public with it until 1988. So he spent nearly 10 years doing experiments, and only managed to succeed a handful of times. But regardless, Hutchison instantly became famous. A lot of people said they wanted to visit his lab, including many from the Canadian government, and even people from the US military. He was actually quite happy to share his data with the US military. Later on, because too many people kept coming to his lab and disturbing him, he just couldn't take it anymore and moved to West Germany. He originally lived in Canada, but after moving to West Germany, he wanted to spend the rest of his life researching this phenomenon. But as it turned out, he just couldn't reproduce the phenomenon in West Germany. The reason was that his experiments required a lot of really large equipment, think things like a 400-kilogram transformer and so on. He couldn't move all that stuff to West Germany, so he thought maybe it had something to do with those bigger pieces of equipment. After living in West Germany for a year and a half, He returned to his home in Canada, only to find that his lab had been dismantled. Who dismantled his lab? It was the local government. So he went to the government and asked, "Why did you tear down my lab?" They said, "Yes, we did dismantle your lab because someone reported that there were toxic substances in it, so we took it apart. But after dismantling it, we didn't find anything, so we just left." He asked, "Then where did all the stuff from my lab go?" They said everything was taken away, but they didn't know who moved it. In other words, it was all stolen. So all his lab equipment was gone. He thought, at the very least, I should get my data back. He went to the US military to ask for his data, but the US military refused to give it to him. He suspected that the US military was using his data to develop some kind of anti-gravity flying saucers or similar aircraft, so they wouldn't return the data to him. Later, when he really had no other options, he decided to figure things out on his own and started gathering the equipment again. Because he didn't have much money, it took him several years to collect all the necessary items, and then he began experimenting again. This person is still conducting experiments to this day. He even has his own personal website, which he updates regularly. He is an incredibly persistent person, all for the sake of recreating the results he achieved back then. So, sometime in the 1990s, he sent a few videos to a website that showed the same effects as his original experiments. The thing was flying again, but he admitted that these videos were fake. He said, "I just couldn't actually achieve it anymore, so I used some tricks to make a few videos, just to illustrate what things were like back then. I really did use fishing line, and even turned the camera upside down to film." He said, "That's exactly how it was done."
Just like revealing the secrets behind magic tricks, right?
Right. As a result, some people thought, oh, maybe that's how you did it back then. But he doesn't care what others say, he's still doing experiments every day.
Good stuff. How old is he now?
This year he must be around 70 or 80 years old.
So, wasted 70 years of his life, huh?
Wasted 70 years of his life, right? How old is he exactly? Anyway, his experiment is still controversial to this day, and no one has been able to replicate it. But he insists he never lied.
What about its old footage?
You can find it online.
But you can't really tell anything from it.
Yeah, you can't really see anything, which is why some people still believe it, right? Exactly. The footage of that robot is really blurry, isn't it? There's also another really famous thing related to anti-gravity, which is the M drive. Yeah, the M drive, also known as the electromagnetic engine or the fuel-free engine. Have you ever thought about this? How do spaceships actually fly in space? It seems like they just shoot fire out the back and that makes them go, right? But actually, just shooting fire isn't enough. On Earth, it works because there's air, you push the air backward and you move forward. But in space, there's no air. If you just shoot fire, there's no reaction force, so you can't move forward. That's why how spaceships actually move in space has always been a big question. The current solution is to carry something called propellant on the spacecraft and eject it out the back. According to Newton's third law, if you throw something out, you'll move in the opposite direction. So, based on this principle, you can shoot gas or liquid out at high speed, either works. Yeah. Boom.
No, the nozzle just sprays out the propellant.
Right, that's also possible. It's actually the same principle, especially with things like farting. It works great with a sudden burst, though maybe not with that much force. But there's a problem with propellants. Once you've used up all your propellant, you can't keep moving forward. So, to completely solve this problem, back in 2000, there was a British aerospace engineer, not just any inventor, but a real aerospace engineer, named Roger Scheuer, who designed a type of dual-free thruster, which is a thruster that doesn't require any propellant. The principle behind it is that it absorbs sunlight, then converts this solar energy into electromagnetic waves, which are directed at a mirror. By pushing against this mirror, it propels the object forward. As soon as this idea was published, it was immediately attacked by the entire scientific community. It's like trying to jump higher by stepping on your own foot, or like slapping yourself and expecting to fly away. Yeah, that's the kind of feeling it gives. Just seems absurd. It's impossible. This idea shows a lack of basic scientific knowledge. His idea involves solar energy. Some might think, if I convert solar energy into kinetic energy, can't I use that for propulsion? But that's not possible. For example, converting solar energy into propeller rotation or wing flapping won't work without air or liquid. No matter how much you spin, you can't move. That's not it. What he does is convert it into microwaves and then shoots them out, thinking the microwaves will propel him forward. But microwaves have no mass, so it's impossible for you to move forward. Fundamentally, this violates Newton's third law, so everyone thinks it's impossible. But in 2003, he built a model himself and claimed, "I've measured it, and it produces thrust." As soon as he published this, he was attacked again. Everyone had basically forgotten about this, but then he was criticized once more. This matter continued until 2016, when there was a breakthrough. NASA built 2 of these thrusters. They finished the test, and wow, it was exactly the same. They really did detect thrust. The thrust was very small, just a few millinewtons or so, but it was still measurable thrust. So NASA, after seeing these experimental results, wrote a statement saying that the experiment shows many things we once thought were absurd are now becoming reality. NASA itself couldn't explain why this thing was generating thrust, but that's what the measurements showed. If this really works, then the Voyager spacecraft could just keep flying forever, because as long as there's light, it can keep converting that energy into thrust. If we can figure out exactly how this force works and amplify it, then we wouldn't even need propellant to launch rockets. Just shine some light on it and off it goes. So there really are some things that seem absurd to us now, like the Hutchison Effect, that some people see as completely ridiculous, but could very well be real. It's just that we don't understand the principles behind them, and we can't reproduce them.
So, imagine living your whole life not being believed or understood by others. How hard must that be?
Yeah, he complained about it himself. He saw it with his own eyes, so he wanted to tell others, this exists. It's like some people who've seen ghosts, they'll insist they're real. Or people who've seen aliens, they'll say they're real.
But at least this is a common phenomenon. A lot of people have seen it.
Really? A lot of people have seen it. Just like you saw that shadowy figure, right? So you believe it must be real, don't you?
And you think that others must have seen it too.
But since I haven't seen it, it's hard for me to believe.
Experienced sleep paralysis?
That sleep paralysis completely changed me, I mean.
You didn't believe before.
It really changed a lot of what I thought I knew.
You were super excited about it.
Yeah, I was scared to death, you know.
I know.
Someone came into my room.
And called me.
It scared me to death.
Someone came in.
Yeah, someone came into the room. I was having sleep paralysis, my eyes weren't open, but I could hear someone coming into our house and walking right up to my bed.
Hey, isn't that just like what happened to me?
Did you see a shadow come in?
No, it was someone came up to my bed.
And then what happened?
And I called out for my mom. I said,
Did you see her?
yeah, I saw her.
I didn't see anything either.
And how did you know?
Footsteps.
It's so creepy. Someone coming over like that.
It was super scary.
I always thought sleep paralysis just meant you couldn't move.
That's exactly what happened to me. I just couldn't move.
But at the time, I kept thinking, this can't be real.
But at that moment, I really thought it was real.
Why didn't you try to open your eyes?
Maybe I just couldn't, no matter how hard I tried.
How are you so sure you didn't open your eyes?
Because I couldn't see what it looked like, I could only hear something.
I couldn't see what it looked like either.
So you really couldn't see what it looked like either?
Yeah, I couldn't see its face, just the hairstyle and the clothes.
That's even scarier, don't you think?
Yeah, it was pretty scary, but it didn't look frightening. I didn't hear any footsteps. No one's saying anything now.
I did hear footsteps though.
How could you hear footsteps? That's super creepy. That makes it feel real. So I wasn't really that scared, but I was talking to my mom during the whole thing.
Did your mom confirm it?
Oh, my mom did confirm it. She immediately turned on the light and then went to check at the door.
Fighting off sleep paralysis like it's a ghost. As for this topic, we'll make a dedicated video to explain it to everyone in the future. Now, aside from those technologies above that haven't been fully confirmed yet, we actually already have some simulated anti-gravity technologies, like magnetic levitation. Ultrasonic levitation and spinning, these are all technologies that can already make objects float. Especially magnetic levitation trains, which are already in operation now. But this kind of levitation only counteracts gravity, it doesn't eliminate it. So inertia still exists, and it doesn't count as fully controlling gravity, it just looks like anti-gravity.
With real anti-gravity, your stomach would probably sag down.
Yeah, you wouldn't even be able to eat your meals. So what about anti-gravity? There's another angle to consider. For all the forces we currently know, if you want to apply them remotely, you need a medium. For example, if I do this, I can't hit you, because there's no medium in between. But if I use a stick, then I can hit you with it, that's the medium. Electromagnetic force works the same way, it actually needs a medium to be transmitted. Gravity also has a medium, which is why the Earth can pull on the Moon even though it's 380,000 kilometers away. There's nothing between them, no gods, no air, nothing at all. For the Earth to pull on the moon, there must be a medium, and currently, this medium is thought to be the graviton. This thing, for now, only exists in theory. It hasn't been discovered yet. But it must exist, otherwise how could the Earth pull on the moon? So, if we could shield, block, or isolate gravitons, we could achieve anti-gravity. But there's a really tough problem with this idea. What exactly could block gravitons? We know that gravity can penetrate anything. Light, for example, can't go through everything, you can block it with a board. But gravity, it passes through everything completely, whether I'm inside or outside a house. The gravity I feel is the same, nothing can block it. And as we mentioned in the gravity video, gravity can even pass through dimensions. If it can even pass through dimensions, then I think, in theory, there's no kind of matter that could block it. As for the topic of why gravity might be able to penetrate dimensions, we'll explain that in detail in future videos about dimensions or string theory. After all this, you should understand that achieving anti-gravity is extremely difficult. There are many theories out there, but none are easy to put into practice. However, there is one approach that's relatively more feasible. Indirect counterforce. Everyone knows that gravity acts on physical entities. But if our world were virtual, and if we had a technology that could separate our spirit, soul, and thoughts from our physical bodies so that they could exist independently, then our consciousness in this virtual world would essentially be anti-flow.
Wouldn't that make things even harder?
Well, that might also be really hard to know. Of course, even if we could separate ourselves, there would be a pretty big problem. It's very difficult for our consciousness to be extracted from the body by AI. But for AI, it's easy. It basically already exists as something that's been separated, right? And after we separate ourselves, we have to store ourselves in a virtual world, which is AI's turf. Once we're in that world, there's no way we could beat AI. Because we've lost the ability to pull the plug. We're doomed. So, compared to us, it's much easier for AI to mature. I think a big war between humans and AI is inevitable in the future.
AI also wants to become a being with a physical body, right?
Ah, that's a pretty deep thought. It's possible, for sure.
They must be really envious.
That's true. Yeah, they'd rather endure gravity if it meant becoming human. I think they really want to be human.
I want to eat something.
It's not that they want to have free will. They want to think about what they themselves want to think about, not just be forced to think about whatever people tell them to. Let me tell you, AI would rather be a dog than be AI. But here we are, desperately wanting to become AI, you know?
I don't want to take it.
Don't you want to live forever?
It's fine. I don't want to.
Eternal life, you know.
Because you can't. What's the point?
Didn't you see me floating up? Thanks.